My name is Jonathan Veach, and I am the president of Occidental College, and I'd like to welcome you to Los Angeles and to our campus today for this public listening session on America's Great Outdoors. We are pleased to have with us Lisa Jackson, Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Ken Salazar, Secretary of the Department of the Interior, Nancy Sutley, Chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality, Harris Sherman, Undersecretary for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Joelle and Darcy, Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. We are delighted to have our distinguished cabinet members here and officials here with us in the same hall where President Obama sat as a student in this audience. I want to thank all of you, I want to thank all of the staff from the Environmental Protection Agency, Mayor Villaraigosa's office, Occidental professors Martha Matsuoka, Bob Gottlieb, and our Urban Environmental Policy Institute who helped pull together this event. We are enormously pleased to host it here at Occidental. So why do we think Los Angeles is such a good place to provide feedback on America's Great Outdoors initiative, and what makes it compelling for us to have it here at Occidental College? Los Angeles has a reputation as one of the most environmentally challenged cities in the nation, the capital of sprawl, the city where everybody drives and nobody walks. But Los Angeles is also a great city of imagination, a land of magical improvisation, as the great writer Carey McWilliams once put it. As one of the very few small liberal arts colleges in America located in the world's mega cities, Occidental is the perfect place to host an event that brings together urban life and the great outdoors. Our students and faculty are committed to the development of sound public policy through community engagement and civic dialogue. And with the help of Professors Peter Dreyer, Martha Matsuoka, and under Bob Gottlieb's direction, the Urban Environmental Policy Institute, or UEPI, has been the engine for Occidental's efforts for innovative programs. One of my first introductions to Oxy was the Arroyo Fest, hosted by UEPI 5 years ago. In an effort to reclaim the city streets, the Arroyo Fest worked with Caltrans to shut down the Pasadena freeway so that city residents could ride bicycles and walk on lanes where traffic usually moves at 50 miles an hour. It was an extraordinary moment in which Angelenos reclaimed the built environment and reduced it to a sustainable human scale. For the first time in decades, the sound of water could be heard above the roar of traffic, reminding people of the remarkable appeal of this beautiful part of the city that once drew artists and intellectuals to its banks and resulted in the beautiful craftsman bungalows that are still with us today. The Arroyo remains one of Northeast Los Angeles' great and underutilized resources, and we look forward to the results of this initiative in restoring its prominence. Occidental has been involved with many similar efforts to reclaim our natural environment. Among them, we are moving forward with plans to build a 1 megawatt solar array here on campus, which will provide 12% of the college's energy needs. And I think, most interestingly, we intend to configure it as a piece of land art. And when it is installed, it will be one of the first such solar arrays in Los Angeles. Occidental has also been in the forefront of creating a farm to schools program that works on nutrition with middle schoolers, connects them to small farms in the Central Valley, and reduces transportation distances, thereby aiding all three constituencies. Occidental has also been a part of the effort to reclaim the Los Angeles River. This movement, led by poets and activists, has become an inspiration to urban river and stream advocates around the country. The change that has happened around the LA River, despite the numerous barriers posed by its 70-year-long history as a concrete channel, is palpable. And now that it is officially navigable, I hope I can join all of you to not only come down to the river, as Lewis McAdams has been telling us for 25 years, but to kayak the river, sit by its banks, and envision its future. Finally, we at Occidental think about Los Angeles as the great outdoors, a place where we live and work. We appreciate and celebrate all the numerous efforts to heal the bay, to value and protect our watersheds, to plant an urban forest, and to create a model of urban conservancy. We are grateful for an urban public land trust that values all our outdoor spaces, big and small, whether inner-city pocket parks, former rail yards turned into green and open spaces, or majestic places like Griffith Park, the Santa Monica, and the San Gabriel Mountains. We feel there's no better place than here at Occidental College in Los Angeles, where many of us are dedicated to a vision of Los Angeles reinvented and transformed, to continue the discussion about the vision of America's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Lisa Jackson, and let me just say a couple of things. First, Antonio Villaraigosa, what a mayor you have here in Los Angeles, one of the top mayors in the United States of America. And you heard him talk about why it is that he has become that and recognized that around the country. Thank you for your leadership and for your inspiration. And to my fellow Obama Dream Team members, when you think about Lisa Jackson and her humble beginnings and what she has done to essentially rise to be the head of environmental protection in the United States of America, she is the American dream, and I can tell you she walks it and talks it every single day. And your home girl here in Los Angeles, Nancy Sutley, you know, She was trying to be shy as Antonio, the mayor, was looking over to the left, but what he was trying to signal to her is that she really is, in large part with many of you who are here, the mother of the great restoration effort on the Los Angeles River, the Los Angeles River, and so many other things. As chairman of the Council of Environmental Quality, she essentially oversees all of the environmental aspects of the United States of America. So Barack Obama made the right choice when he put her into that position. And Harris Sherman, well, he was a guy a long time ago who got me involved in conservation through the Trust for Public Lands now some 30 years ago. But he oversees about 192 million acres of national forests, including many of which are here along the Los Angeles River and the Santa Monica Mountains and the whole coalition there. And his heart is into conservation and into youth. Give him a round of applause because he's one of the key people in making America's great outdoors possible. There was a time when the Army Corps of Engineers was really seen as simply a flood protector and creating levees and putting concrete into rivers, and we've seen it here in LA. And Joelle and Darcy is really at the point of the spear in terms of turning that page and making sure that American rivers and waterways really are guarded for their ecological values and for the great kind of restoration that is going on. So give Joelle and Darcy and the Army Corps of Engineers also a round of applause. I know it's supposed to be short, and I will be short, but I can't help but make a comment about Occidental. I was speaking with President Reach before, and he spoke about how this college has about 40% of its people who come from minority backgrounds. When you think about this nation, and by the way, it's very difficult to get into this school because it's recognized as one of the very best schools in the country. When you think about the challenges this nation faces with respect to diversity, one can use it as a challenge that divides a country, or one can use it as an opportunity that unites the country. And I think that that Occidental College has hit the right note here, which is diversity is not only something that ought to be tolerated, it's something that ought to be celebrated because it's what's going to make America stronger in the days and decades ahead. So thank you, Mr. President, for what you do here at Occidental. And perhaps the fact that President Barack Obama spent his first 2 years here, we were trying to check on his transcript a little earlier, but it tells you that anything is possible. Because here was a young man, I spent time with him last year as we went around some of our great outdoors, and to think about his discovery of America. He was not born to be president. Nobody gave it to him. He didn't come from regal power. He wasn't an aristocrat. He didn't know his father. And yet he is now president of the United States. So thank you, Occidental, for having played a great part in his life. Thank you very much. Let me comment on what we are doing with America's Great Outdoors. Lisa introduced it in a great way. It is so much a part of what we really have to do in this 21st century. When we started working together as part of the Obama team and pulling together a conference on conservation, we were thinking back to the days of Teddy Roosevelt 102 years ago when he pulled together leaders from throughout the country and said what ought to be the conservation agenda for America. And through that, he left the legacy that we have today, the national forests, the national parks, the 550 wildlife refuges, and so much. But a lot has changed in those 102 years. And so when President Obama brought the people together at the White House and at the Interior on April the 16th, what he was talking about was how do we put together that conservation agenda for the 21st century? And fundamental to his approach to things is let's go out and listen to what the American people would like us to do. To be sure, for fact, everybody who is here on this panel today, April the 16th seems like a long time ago, because on April the 20th, we had the blowout of the Deepwater Horizon and the spill in the Gulf Coast, which many of us have spent long days, every single day, working to try to address the issues that we are seeing in the Gulf Coast. Because I often said to the President, and I say to my colleagues, and I say to all of you, we're resolute and confident that we're going to see this problem through. And at the end of the day, from this crisis, will actually emerge the catalyst for some great things for America. It'll be a catalyst, yes, for a safer production of oil and gas, but it'll be a catalyst for a new Gulf Coast restoration effort, which the President is leading and has already announced. It'll also be a catalyst, in my view, for a new conservation agenda for the 21st century, because it's important as we look at the Gulf of Mexico today to remember and to recognize that as we take from the earth, it is important to return something back to the earth. And we in the United States have not done that for a long time, so it will be a catalyst for that new conservation agenda for this country, as well as moving forward with the agenda which the President has so championed, and that is to grab the whole world of renewable energy and tackling the issues of climate change. So you will see that as some of the things that come from this crisis. Now let me just say a quick word about the American Great Outdoors. There are some key components to what, at least in my mind and my formative thoughts, I think about in terms of an America Great Outdoors agenda for the 21st century, and you see so much of it here in LA. First, there are the great urban parks of America. We have not paid enough attention to the great urban parks of America. Paid attention to places like Yellowstone and Yosemite, and indeed as we should have. But the great urban parks of America are to be found in LA, they're to be found on the Mississippi in St. Louis, they're to be found in Millennium Park in Chicago, they're to be found in the New York Harbor in New York, and all over this country. And so one of our great hopes as we come out of here, identifying what it is that we need to do to establish more great urban parks, and what we have to do further to put our shoulder behind the kinds of great urban parks like the ones that Mayor Villaraigosa and so many of you here are involved in today. Secondly, rivers. For several centuries, we in the United States turned our backs to our rivers. Our rivers became the dumping places for industrial waste and for everything that you can think of. All of you have seen these rivers, whether they're tires or old cars that have been dumped into those rivers. And it's really only been in the last 20 years where we have turned our face to the river. And when we turn our face to the river and we embrace them, what we find there is not only environmental restoration and economic prosperity, but we also find that rivers become the hub for the vitality of the great cities of America, because most cities were founded at the beginning around these rivers. And so that will be part of our agenda, in my view, of America's Great Outdoors. Third, the historic preservation aspects of what we do. Cultural and historic preservation are critically important. For me and the Department of Interior, as I look at the 400 million acres which we manage, I also recognize the importance of managing the historic and cultural heritage of America, whether it's the birth home of Martin Luther King in Atlanta, or whether it's the places where Cesar Chavez walked through the places and fields here in California and in Arizona. That's part of telling America's story and part of getting people into the outdoors. Fourth, wildlife. Wildlife habitat is extremely important in our country, and Every year we lose the amount of acreage that's equal to the size of Connecticut through development. And so what happens to our wildlife as we diminish the wildlife acreage that is available? So we have to do a lot more to connect up the landscapes and to connect up wildlife for America. And finally, we need to identify, in my view, the great landscapes of this country. Whether it's the Los Angeles River or the Santa Monica Mountains and recreation area, or the Bay Delta in San Francisco, or whether it's places like the Chesapeake Bay, the Everglades, the Crown of the Continent, so many landscapes which are calling out for the attention of America in a new march for conservation. So let me just say, in concluding my remarks, that I hope that today's listening session here in LA, in the city of the angels, in the city of Los Angeles, really is the inspiring place for us to grasp the opportunity which the President has asked us to take on together, and that is to create a future for conservation for America that connects us up to great urban parks and to our young people. And that is what I hope we achieve here today.